News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer Lippert. Yes, it's time for our monthly update, and we have big news. Randy Carter is here. He is the Director of Strategic Communications for Pikeoffota, and he wants to bring us up to date. Tassie Hirschfeld is also here. She is on the board of directors for this same organization. What are we talking about? We're talking about the fact that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority wants to build 2 turnpikes through Cleveland County. Now, the story has changed. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. The story has changed, but most recently, an announcement has come out. Randy, I'm going to let you give the big announcement, and I'm telling you, it breaks my heart.
Well, mine too, but back last week, Tuesday, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority held their monthly meeting, and at the end of the meeting, during the director's report, the director announced that they were starting back work on the southern extension of the turnpike that goes through Cleveland County and the city of Norman. And quite frankly, there had been a lot of roadblocks that were put up in front of them as far as being able to continue work on that. There were
yes, you all, let me
and,
brag on you all. Volunteers, citizens group, doing your civic duty, telling them, no, you can't put it through the Lake Thunderbird watershed. You can't put it through my living room. I don't want it. At one point, East Norman is supposed to be natural and have larger domains and all that stuff. And I really thought that you all did a fabulous job and are continuing to do that. So, as I understand it, it's called Access Oklahoma. And what is the purpose of this southern extension?
In our opinion, it's just to add numbers to their research to trump up issuing more bonds with the idea that the larger traffic count will allow us to issue more bonds so we can pay off the debts we can't pay off now and then kick the can down the road to future generations. That's probably not how the OTA will spin it, but that's kind of the way that we see it.
What is it supposed to connect?
The turnpike, the southern extension, is supposed to connect to I-35 just north of Purcell, proceed north through Slaughterville, Noble, Norman, and connect with what they call the east-west connector, which is supposed to connect to the Kickapoo Turnpike at I-40 in eastern Oklahoma County, and then proceed along basically Indian Hills Road between Norman and Moore, and then across the South Canadian River, and then connect to I-44 over in Newcastle. Is what those are the 3 routes. There's actually a 3rd route that's not in Cleveland County called the Tri-City Connector. I believe that's mostly in McLean and Oklahoma County. But those 3 projects are what they are proposing, and actually have started to take some properties on the east-west connector at this point. But initially, we got involved in Pikeoffota and Oklahoma for Responsible Transportation got involved. There have been a couple of lawsuits that have slowed them down. Actually completely stopped work on the access program for about a year, and then we made them aware that they were going to be crossing Lake Thunderbird, which is owned by the Federal Bureau of Reclamation, and that they were going to have to apply. They were going to have to get with the Bureau of Reclamation and make an application to cross their fee title land. And their fee title, basically, they own Lake Thunderbird and the land surrounding it, as well as they have rights to some easements all around that fee title land, which borders. We call it the wildlife reserve out here, but it's the land that surrounds Lake Thunderbird, and they own that land and also easement rights to land connecting to that as well. And the Bureau of Reclamation, I believe they applied for it back in 2022. And I believe Tassie, was it December or January of 23 that?
I believe it was December.
Okay, December of 22. That's when the Bureau of Reclamation issued their denial report declining them, the Turnpike Authority, to have the right to cross their fee title land. And at that point, they basically stopped all work on the southern extension. That would have been in January of 23, basically, when they stopped it. So it's been a little over a year, 12, 11, or 13 or 14 months. Sorry, my math.
2025.
In 2025, they decided to start back with design work on the southern extension. And from what they've told me, they are going back to the drawing board, starting from the beginning, basically, that they do not have a route picked out. But the director, in his talk at the meeting, did not say specifically where it was going to go, but in an email that they delivered to what they call stakeholders, which we property owners are not considered stakeholders in all this, but the letter that they issued to stakeholders said that indeed the southern extension was going to have to be moved west of the current route that they have proposed. So that means a whole new group of people are likely to be coming under the gun of devastating destruction of their homes and properties under this under this change of direction for the southern extension.
So now does it miss your property, Randy, and your property, Tassie?
Well, the thing is, we don't know, because they just said we're moving it. They didn't say where. And so, like, if you wanted to intentionally antagonize, annoy, frustrate, and infuriate the largest possible number of people, that's what they've done, right? Like, so every single part of this process just seems so completely wrong-headed and poorly executed. And this is
backwards is the word that comes to mind. So what I just heard you say, they had not applied for the permit to go through the Lake Thunderbird watershed, and you all had to point that out to them? Oh, my.
Of course. I mean, the word goober comes to mind. Not that I would say it in a pejorative way, but it does come to mind.
Yeah, I believe it was our group that pointed out Central Oklahoma Master Conservancy District is who operates Lake Thunderbird for the Bureau of Reclamation. And our group way back in 2022 brought it to the attention of that the Master Conservancy District that the Turnpike Authority was indeed planning to go through the land owned by the lake. They hadn't talked to them. They hadn't done anything that we're aware of. And so at that point, the Master Conservancy District wrote a letter to the Turnpike Authority telling them that they had to apply, work with them. I can't remember the exact details, but notifying the Turnpike Authority that, hey, no, you can't just build over our property. So this has been an ongoing process for quite some time. But interestingly enough, the Turnpike Authority has spent millions and millions of dollars designing this southern extension that basically is useless at this point.
And it just, I mean, again, to me, it just shows that there is zero oversight. Like, if you and I had made a blunder that colossal, like, wouldn't you expect, like, you've cost your employer millions of dollars because you didn't do the most basic homework? But why? They just seem to get away with it.
Well, and here's the crazy part. This is not their first turnpike.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in fact, they have such a history of abuse in Tulsa, around the Kickapoo and all that. It dazzles me that they are allowed to proceed. And I wanted to, I was looking at Amy Serrato's Substack, and she made reference to the Chevron something that that the Supreme Court used to rule in their favor, and now that no longer applies. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and although I hate to say it, I am actually more cynical, because I just feel like the doctrine doesn't matter, the law doesn't matter. No one has ever compelled them to obey the law. They just bend the law to let the Turnpike Authority do whatever they want. And if you were to ask me to speculate on why that might be, I mean, I honestly think that the reason for these highways is not so much to alleviate traffic, because the routes aren't right for that, but I really think it's the real estate developers who just want to grab and feast and chow down on all the delicious, rural, pleasant, wildlife-friendly acreage that we have out here.
Oh, my goodness. Well, and if I could share this again from Amy Serrato's Substack, and this is what you said, Randy, as well. An entirely new set of property and homeowners will be affected by the turnpike, many of which probably haven't been paying attention because they thought it wouldn't affect them. And so you're asking for us all to care and all to get together. I'll tell you what, I have to take a break. When we come back, Tassie Hirschfeld and Randy Carter will be joining me more about this east-west connector, the southern connector. The government calls it Access Oklahoma. I lovingly have called it Excess Oklahoma. And I want to prove to you why we say that. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer Lippert. We're talking about the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority's program called Access Oklahoma. I prefer to call it Excess Oklahoma because after you hear from my guests today, you will agree and understand why. Currently, the Turnpike Authority has turnpikes that don't make money, turnpikes that don't cover their own costs, but yet they want to build more turnpikes. And Randy Carter, the Director of Strategic Communication for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, thinks it might be well, I shouldn't quote you, has heard others mention it as a Ponzi scheme. Tassie Hirschfeld is here. She is on the board of directors as well and loves to research willful deception. In fact, she is a researcher of public deception. They joined me this evening. So I want to be sure that we mention many times that you all are trying to get a town hall together to talk about the turnpikes. Tell us about it.
Yes, coming up Wednesday night. It's coming Wednesday. What is that, the 12th?
Yes.
Yeah. March the 12th at Washington Elementary School in Norman. It's out here in Ward 5 in the east, in our pastoral area of Norman that we want to keep protected that way. Washington Elementary School at 7 o'clock, we're hosting a town hall meeting. We've invited a lot of people that we think potentially may be impacted by this new route if it comes through one of the two routes where we believe that it's likely to come based on some research and some analysis by some very competent engineers that have spent a career in the transportation industry, and they've had a lot of experience knowing how the Turnpike Authority works, and they have projected what they think are two possible routes west, moving the southern extension west of where it originally was drawn. And we would like to invite everybody that has an interest in these turnpikes, that has a concern about how to deal with this scourge as it begins to move westerly, and what they can do about it, and how they can get involved with the cause, and hopefully answer some questions that may alleviate some of their potential fears.
And for the most part, the east-west connector is Indian Hills Road, correct?
Just about basically, I would say that's pretty much correct. As it gets further east, it then kicks up a little bit north as it connects to the Kickapoo. But all that information, the maps that they've drawn, are available on the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority website. You can find that. And I believe they're also available on our website, pikeoffota.com. You can look at all the maps and all the things that we've done as well. And actually, there's a map on there that the Bureau of Reclamation issued that shows their fee title land and where the southern extension was going. I just looked at that today, as a matter of fact. So there's lots and lots of information on our pikeoffota.com site as well for people to check out.
Will there be anyone from the Turnpike Authority at the town hall?
No.
They have nothing but contempt for us little peasants, so they do not bless us with their presence.
Well, and I frankly, if everybody remembers the initial town hall meeting that was held at Cross Point Church out in southeast part of Norman. That it was the main speakers were from they were from Poe And Associates, who are the corridor manager for the Turnpike Authority, and they're basically the ones that are running the show on the construction and engineering of the Turnpike. They were there, and the meeting really got quite contentious. I don't think even if we had invited them, that they would want to come. And frankly, I don't want to
well,
get
you
people
don't
all
need to
riled
hear
up.
them. Yeah. So it's really kind of a strategy meeting for the citizens group, correct?
Well, strategy and information. I think a lot of people, I know when I was first put under the sort of Damocles about this turnpike, that I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of concerns. I was upset. I had a lot of sleepless nights. And maybe we can help alleviate a little bit of that tension for some of these people. It was not a pleasant place to be. I think I went 3 or 4 completely sleepless nights when this thing first came up.
Yeah, I mean, people need the support of their community, right? Like, this is not something that you can endure by yourself. You just really need to know that, everybody's in this together, and there is a big established network now, thankfully, that has real information and can give you guidance, and or even just sort of commiserate, because it is the worst feeling in the world to learn that your state transportation agency can grab any piece of property they want. They don't even need a reason. It doesn't have to make sense. They just tell you to get out of the way.
And they haven't even studied it. That's what I find so shocking. The environmental analysis of it never happened. I mean, the Kickapoo, the people are suffering up along the Kickapoo because they didn't really study that, or they didn't live up to the promises that they thought would help fix some of the drainage problems and things like that. Anyway. I am talking to Tassie Hirschfeld and Randy Carter. They're with the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. We're going to get an update from Fox News, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to ask them, do you all really think you can, in the old vernacular, beat City Hall, beat the government agency called the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority? It'll be an interesting answer, I'm sure. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer Lippert, talking to Tassie Hirschfeld, who is a member of the board of directors for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation, and Randy Carter, who is director of strategic communications. They are here with me this evening to talk about a program called Access Oklahoma. The short answer is this particular turnpike is going to go through their houses, they thought. But now, because it was drawn improperly and affected the watershed of Lake Thunderbird, it appears that now it might not. In fact, possibly not. And so there will be hundreds of other people in Cleveland County that will have the terror of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority taking through eminent domain your property. Now, it's really interesting, you all, when I talk to business people, they say, but we need good roads. And when someone says that to you, how do you hold back?
Well, I don't disagree with them. Absolutely, we need good roads, but these are not good roads. I mean, it's just as simple as that. These roads are being put in my opinion, number one, to alleviate the financial crisis that's going on at the Turnpike Authority, and also to generate work for road builders and engineering firms, which they have. I mean, we want them to design good roads and build good roads, just not these roads themselves. And also, we believe that there's a lot of influence from developers who want to try to change the codes or ordinances. I don't know exactly the correct term for what they are, that have building requirements or limitations on this property in North and East Norman, where these turnpikes are going. What
is the status of the city council told the Turnpike Authority no we don't want to play, or we're not going to give you authorization. So, as I understand it, that meant that no exit ramps will be built like on 48th or 72nd or whatever road it was. Not a major highway or anything like that, but just, What's the status of all that?
As I understand it, they haven't gone back. There has not been any kind of a resolution passed by the city of Norman through the city council to institute cooperation with the Turnpike Authority. And as I understand it, in order for them to build exit on-off ramps any place other than on an existing state highway where the turnpike might cross, they have to have that resolution with the governmental entity that they are crossing through or trying to exist in. And since they don't have that, they can only build those on-off ramps where it connects to a state highway.
I would think that would make the developers crazy.
Well, and we're sure that the developers are trying to turn some screws on the city council, but the most recent election was a really strong statement that the voters and citizens want to say, like, they're tired of this cronyism, the backdoor deals, the things that we saw going on before the access things were announced that we now know were sort of happening behind the scenes, the city manager colluding with anyway. I think, every citizen, especially now that so many more are potentially in the path of the new route, are really just going to put their foot down and say, no, we're just not going to cooperate in the destruction of the city.
Yes, if I could add to what you're saying, the voters of Norman did not return the mayor to his responsibilities. And did they vote out a couple of other council members?
They did vote out. They voted out at least one other council member, and the council member that the new mayor gave up his council seat, and I believe the person that won that is more in line with the no turnpikes position. I can't speak for them. That's just my speculation.
No,
the way the election
I think
went.
the article I read in the Norman transcript was feeling the same. So do you all have hope that you can actually stop these turnpikes?
We should always have hope. But I don't know. I have hope that the good people of Norman are all arm in arm on this issue. And that is a really powerful force. When citizens all across the political spectrum make up their minds and stamp their feet and just say no in their loudest 2-year-old toddler voice. And sometimes really powerful things can come out of that. So that I'm hopeful about. But having studied the Turnpike Authority and its history and its past, they are the most relentless. It does not matter. There does not seem to be a law that they can be compelled to obey. All the laws just bend and break and stretch to accommodate their autocratic grabbing of land.
It seems like America all of a sudden. Exactly. We're talking about Oklahoma, but I see some similarities. So
true.
What is the plan? What is your plan? You're going to have this town hall at Washington Elementary on Wednesday night, starting at 7 o'clock, to bring everybody up to date that it can be affected by this. And then how is your legislation progressing through the state legislature?
Right now, we have a bill, Danny Sterling, House Bill 1939. This year, the new Speaker of the House instituted a second level of committees that now in the House, a bill has to pass through the initial committee that it was assigned to, and then if it passes out of that, then it has to pass out of another subcommittee before it can be heard on the floor. So there's a new layer. Yeah, there's a new layer of barriers to getting legislation passed. This bill, basically, it intends to bring more transparency and oversight to the Turnpike Authority. I mean, I could get in the weeds and give you all the details, but if not, that's not necessarily pertinent at this point. It's a good bill for us, and we would like to see it passed. It's still a work in progress, but it just recently, this past week, I believe it was Thursday, and it all kind of happened right at the last minute. And I have to thank Representative Sterling very much for his diligent work on making sure this even got on the committee agenda. But it passed unanimously out of that committee and now can be heard on the whole House floor. And then if it passes there, it can get sent to the Senate. But it has to get through the gatekeeper, who is I believe the majority floor leader of the Oklahoma House, has to agree to hear the bill. And then we have to make sure we have enough votes that the bill will pass before it can go to the Senate and then go through the whole process again.
So that's House Bill 1939.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If people would like to get involved. Yes.
Yes, and we would greatly appreciate their support of this bill at this point. It's not in its final form. Both the Turnpike Authority and us and our groups are still hoping to craft some of the language a little bit differently. But that's how legislation works. There's give and take between the various parties, and you try to come to something that on the good side that we love, and on the bad side that doesn't make us completely throw up. And then the compromise works, and then we can maybe pass a decent piece of legislation that is good for the citizens of Oklahoma.
Well, the thing that's crazy about this is in the 1980s, the end of the night, they tried to do this not this exact thing, but a similar thing to East Cleveland County. And people were diligent and fought it. And finally, Neil McCaleb said, the people don't want it, let's give it up, let's don't do it. But you don't see that happening this time. Isn't it because for financial reasons, they need the money kind of thing?
Actually, the last time, I feel like a piece of that story has gone missing from the narrative, which is I don't think they could get the money for the bonds. And so I don't know if it was just that they were like, the people don't want it, as opposed to the bankers don't want to pay it. So
how has the bond effect changed?
My take on it, and this I think many listeners will understand, OTA has no constraints on toll increases, and there's been a lot of changes in the way that municipal finance works, and now suddenly that's very attractive because in theory, not in practice, in theory they can raise tolls to $1 bazillion, which means in the simple-minded algorithm the bankers use, it's, then we can keep loaning them as much money as they want because they can always raise tolls to pay it back.
And they just did. Mm-hmm.
And they just did, which technically they shouldn't have done because that toll increase was not to cover, there are no expenses for the access projects yet. The interest payments are capitalized, they don't know interest yet, and they don't ever pay principal, right? So that toll increase is basically generating millions of dollars of extra revenue for them that they will not use to pay down debt. They just kind of hoard as this little slush fund that they can continue to engage in so much irresponsible spending.
Tassie Hirschfeld is a researcher and a diligent member of the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. Randy Carter is the Director of Strategic Communications. They are with a group of people that are diligent about trying to save eastern Oklahoma from more turnpikes, trying to save you and me from using rash eminent domain and tolls that we don't really need to take. So we need to pay attention to what they're saying. I need to take a break. I'm Gwin Faulconer Lippert. We'll talk more about excess Oklahoma when we come back. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. News Radio 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer Lippert, talking to Tassie Hirschfeld and Randy Carter. They're with the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. They are a citizens group that believe that we have a right to have rural Oklahoma without turnpikes going through it, so you have to pay. And they joined me this evening because their pikeoffota.com group is gearing up to have a town hall on Wednesday night to give you all the facts about what is going on. So we have a few more minutes, guys. Fill us up so that we will be as vigilant as you are.
I will say just one short message, and this ties together the toll increases and our efforts at the legislature. If we can just get one element of one bill through that puts control over toll increases in the hands of the legislature, out of OTA's hands, that will interrupt their unlimited money supply, because the bankers will no longer be willing to just give them a blank check for whatever they want, because they know that there's potentially oversight. So if we can just get that word out there and get some support for that, get people to call their representatives, the legislature should like that. It just gives them some control. And then that way constituents have someone they can call when they're unhappy with the Turnpike Authority.
So this House Bill 1939, does it deal with toll increases?
No, it does not. There have been a couple of bills, both in the House and the Senate, that were proposing that basically they were pretty similar. They were proposing that the legislature are the ones that approve any toll increases, and we could not get those past any committee chairs to even agree to hear them in the committees.
Well,
so they were dead in the water, basically.
That's disappointing, isn't it? Don't you remember
Yes.
when we as the people voted that you couldn't have a tax increase in Oklahoma without the citizens voting? And then they came up with the sidebar of user fee, so that it would never go to a vote. So I guess a turnpike tax or a turnpike fee is a user fee, correct?
Yeah, but it implies that it's voluntary, but for a lot of people it isn't. And if they continue to build these, I call them strangulation loops around the major cities, then you really don't have a choice at that point.
Ask the Gilcrease neighborhood people. You're right.
Exactly.
They're paying tolls to go home. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, and if you think about it, this recent toll increase is the largest tax increase in Oklahoma history.
What?
And it's just the beginning. I mean, that all of that $1.5 billion that they borrowed plus interest, that's going to be paid by Oklahoma drivers, right? And the other $7 billion that they're planning to borrow will be too. Like, it's massive.
And so the $7 billion, tell me more about that.
Well, the total estimated cost for all of the access boondoggles, highways, is $8.5 billion, but with debt service, it's many, many billions more. So it pretty much guarantees, if you were to ask me how much it's going to cost to drive from Oklahoma City to Tulsa, if they do this in 10 years, it could easily be $75 or more, right? Like, they just are incapable of doing anything on a budget. They never think about costs in the same way that they don't think about citizens and homeowners. They are just about making money for themselves.
Well, and that's why I guess people invest in their bonds, right?
Well, I think mutual funds just look at metrics. They don't know the backstory, right? They just know that it's got a good credit rating, and that's all they pay attention to, and which is unfortunate.
In all of this process, I discovered that the bond rating agencies, Moody's and what the other agencies are, the Turnpike Authority pays them to rate their bonds.
What?
Yeah, it's a fee. And so there's automatically like a disincentive for really rigorous analysis. And if you recall or not, after the financial crisis in 2008, I think Moody's had to pay a $700 million fine for mispricing risk on their mortgage-backed securities. But they didn't seem to learn their lesson, right? Like, they have no interest in learning any of the backstory or the context or the reasons why these highway projects are non-viable. They approved the bond issue with a non-viable route, so somebody's asleep at the wheel.
Well, you all are all volunteers. This is not a
Yes.
paid gig for anybody. So let's tell people how they can support you. If they can't come to the town hall, and if they don't dress up in their red shirts and go to the legislature or whatever, how can we support you for protecting us from ourselves and from the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority?
Pikeoffota.com you can go on our website, and there's a button that you can click to make a donation. And you can either donate to Pike Off OTA, or you can donate to the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation Foundation. That particular donation to the foundation is tax deductible for the donor, if that's something that they are interested in taking advantage of with their donation. We would appreciate any donations to either one of those funds. They all go to similar but appropriate usages of the funds. There's different rules for a tax deductible fund that's an organization that's tax deductible, and one that the contributions are not tax deductible, and we follow those rules and regulations very rigorously. But yes, we would appreciate any donations that anybody might be willing to contribute to our cause. They can do a one-time donation, or there's even a vehicle to set up a regular continuing donation. And we would greatly appreciate that.
Someone was asking me, does this now run up against Belmar or Toby Keith's compound?
Yes, Belmar is is on the north edge of Indian Hills Road. As I understand, again, I'm not an expert on exactly where the route's going to go, but it looks like they're going to be they're proposing to take the east-west connector south of Indian Hills through that area where Belmar is. And I believe Toby Keith's compound, his personal compound, is actually on Franklin Road, which is a mile south. But it's likely to be in between Franklin Road and Indian Hills when it runs through that area. And there's also a pretty good-sized cemetery that's just down the road on Indian Hills as well.
I think you just read my mind. When I looked at the eminent domain purchases that they're looking at and all that, there is a cemetery right in the middle of this, isn't there?
It's basically on the north side. The particular, I believe it's called Sunset. The cemetery that I'm thinking of is specifically on the north side of Indian Hills Road. And I know specifically that they are proposing that it runs south of there because there's a property owner, a homeowner there, very active in our organization, and they have been in contact with the Turnpike Authority, and that's the way it looks, that it's going to be south of Indian Hills through there. But there's a number of very high dollar homes in there as well. So we don't know exactly where it's going to go until we see their maps that reveal it. And we know a little more about the east-west connector than we do about the southern extension, because basically they said they're starting all over. They're going back to the drawing board, and nothing is off the table. So
is the possibility of it affecting even more families and more homes?
To answer that question, we had back at the very beginning of all this, we had an engineer, that certified engineer, spent a career in the transportation industry, draw up a couple of other routes that we think that would be proposed routes. One of the routes, actually both of the routes, take fewer homes than on the initially proposed southern route.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I'm not for taking any of them, but I just hate your story of where you woke up one morning, you're reading the paper, and you went, "Oh my goodness, there's a turnpike coming through my living room." It just haunts me for you and for all of people anywhere near that. So again, it's pikeoffota.com or the foundation address, Randy?
You can get both of the donation boxes are on there. If you go to pikeoffota.com, you can click on the donate button, and it'll give you a choice of which one of those organizations, which one of those funds you would like to donate to.
Randy Carter is the Director of Strategic Communications. Tassie Hirschfeld is board member for the Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation. Thank you all again, and I look forward to talking with you again in a month, and we will see. Hopefully there'll be some good news to share for citizens rather than turnpikes. You're listening to 1000 KTOK. I'm Gwin Faulconer Lippert. I believe that gratitude is everything. Good night, everyone.